So it will collect, index, synthesize, and disseminate existing research and topics related to the effective implementation of the agenda. It will establish productive interfaces with continental and global processes and platforms, including participation in the NEPAD's monitoring and evaluation of the SDGs, and multi-stakeholder partnerships in the context of the high-level political forum on the sustainable development in which we participate. We will establish productive partners. This is the knowledge hub that I've just mentioned. It will establish productive partnerships with government departments and research institutions in selected countries. It will identify gaps in the knowledge base, which is really important. After you've got the different technologies that have been deposited, you'll recognize that there's a lot for water and sanitation, possibly none for safety and security, for example. So, we really need to look at where we are doing well, but then also where we have no technologies that are addressing it. Establish productive interfaces with continental and global processes and platforms, and assist with monitoring and evaluation of the SDGs in Africa, and the multi-stakeholder partnerships in the context of the. So the University of Pretoria was consulted to expand and accommodate information related to existing innovations, as I've just mentioned, and this platform for depositing innovations, technologies, and innovations. So I think that's going to be, going forward, a really important place where around which we're going to be coordinating where we are getting the information. But just to say that it doesn't say that this is going to be doing all the work. It's going to be highlighting the work that different people are doing. So for example, there might be a knowledge hub in green economy, for example, that is already created, and then that must then be duplicated within the Sustainable Development Knowledge Hub, which creates a total platform for the SDGs. But it doesn't say it's the only one in different areas. So for us, what's going to be really important is the discussion where people then use this knowledge hub to put so it could be what I've just mentioned, a one-stop shop. So everything that is accessible needs to be, so that if someone comes and they say, okay, South Africa, what do we have for the SDGs? They go to this one place, they search it, and even if it's a link to another knowledge hub, that's really important that this primary South African and African knowledge hub has that information. And I think it's not there yet, and it's going to take the partnership between all of us and the National System Innovation to make sure that it is an extensive database that captures all of the work that we are doing individually as institutions. So the multi-stakeholder forum, I just wanted to touch on that quickly. Discuss the need for STI policy and instruments such as funding, technical assistance, and innovation infrastructure to enable the integration of the STI in the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. This forum also reiterated the need for member states to develop national STI for SDGs. Within South Africa, we take that we don't have to develop it, we need to make them aware of what we are doing as a national department, but as a national system of innovation to address these development goals. And sometimes it's just about changing, we are doing a lot already, but it's about just using the right language. So we might call it something, they call it something else. So it's really aligning terminology and reporting to them. That's very key. And to recognize the interrelatedness and complementarity of the SDGs with the National Development Plan, local planning initiatives, and sectoral planning initiatives, and then how then do we communicate that internationally. What was recognized very key there, the gentleman who's gone, it should include the private sector, and as part of the work that I do, it's developing this relationship with the private sector, because while government spending on science, technology, innovation is increased, business expenditure has been decreasing, and we're trying to say that it's a partnership. It's the public sector pays, but the private sector benefits, but we really need to together pay and benefits. So we're trying to get public-private partnerships to ensure that the public sector spending is matched by private sector investment so that we can achieve some of the ambitious targets we've set in the National Development Plan, but also within this continental program, Sustainable Development, of the Sustainable Development Goals. And so the other thing it looked at was the need to emphasize this strengthening STI human resources in South Africa. It's very clear that encouraging from a very young age STEM education, then people into careers in science, technology, and innovation, and then people to be part of developing them within the science system is it's a long process. And so strengthening human capacity is key to addressing this Sustainable Development Goals. And it also then looked at global science advice system, whose focus would include undertaking assessments on science advice systems, how scientific research is responding to this SDGs, and the establishment of the science system would require countries to nominate focal points to coordinate national activities in this regards and serve on the global structure. It also reiterated the critical requirement for progressive education systems that are able to integrate the different types of knowledges and to turn the SDGs into innovative opportunities. And that's going to be key, because what we're finding within the systems is not just not the universities, but it's the small to medium enterprises, the kind of Silicon Valley effect, where people within back in garages in their backyard, or just even outside of the classroom, are coming up with some really amazing innovative solutions. For example, in Gauteng, for example, Braamfontein is becoming a digital hub, where the Shimalagang hub is playing a key role in generating kind of an enthusiasm about how you use information technology, but also supporting them in terms of entrepreneurship. There's a range of instruments, for example, Simadisa, which works with small to medium enterprises and works closely with the Department of Science and Technology to work with small to medium enterprises to see how they are contributing to innovation that are addressing developmental and societal challenges. So it's very key that we look at innovation opportunities in this regard, and the inclusion of grassroots innovation. We have a program specifically looking at inclusion, innovation for inclusive development, and grassroots innovation is highlighted as an important aspect of addressing the Sustainable Development Goals, and we see an increased focus on that. In fact, with the redrafting at the moment, the Department of Science and Technology is revising reviewing its white paper and drafting a new white paper on science, technology, and innovation. And in that white paper, it's innovation for inclusive growth that is a focus. And so in that aspect, grassroots innovation is key. So the key consideration recommendations coming out of these high-level discussions for South Africa includes domestic coordination, where the DST will look at the establishment of the STI coordination mechanism for the SDGs. We are in the process of looking at how the department, together with the entities that report to us, will form a coordination mechanism that can become a mechanism that meets more regularly to discuss what we're doing as a system. And we'll also take responsibility for quality assurance of South African innovations, but that will be submitted to the Global Innovation Exchange and through this STI SDG platform. And looking at how, when people, we have one or two individuals that are participating, but we need to reflect what's happening in the system. So this coordination mechanism will be very important to synthesize and coordinate what is happening within South Africa, and then to go and report it within this global system. Then we require regional continental integration that is taking over current. South Africa currently is now the chair of SADC, and within this period of our chairpersonship, it's very important for us to show leadership. And one area that we want to push is around science, technology, and innovation. for SDGs, and would be to contribute towards the regional integration of science, technology, and innovation. We've already taken leadership in that. We have a representative, a permanent representative from Department of Science and Technology that sits at the SADC Secretariat, Annalene Morgan, and she's been very key in taking some of these agendas forward, because the SADC Secretary didn't have STI capacity before. And in fact, by placing that position, we gave the SADC Secretariat an STI capacity. So it's very important that in creating that capacity, we see as the Southern African region, how do we take that leadership forward?